Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Wow, okay, so today has been a really long day, but I'm actually very excited to be talking to you guys today. Like, I look forward to like sitting down and doing this with you guys. So if you're new to this channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button right now and turn on post notifications so you can be notified for when I post a new video. I'm basically posting every single day until this quarantine is over, and each and every day I'm going to be picking a new topic to talk about. I actually picked these topics from like suggestions that you guys have, so a lot of these suggestions have come from my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you guys go follow me there. Also from TikTok, I pull a lot of suggestions from TikTok. In today's topic, I'm going to be talking about something that I personally struggle with, something that I think I have not overcome, but I've learned to live with and cope with in a much better way. It's anxiety. Like, I think that everyone experiences anxiety in different ways, and I want to be very respectful to people who struggle with severe anxiety, because I went through that and I know it can get really hard. Today is April 14 and it's day 30 of our self-quarantine. I noticed that at the beginning of the self-quarantine, my anxiety wasn't nowhere near as bad as like the second week. The second week I started to get anxious. Like, I found myself like just being like, I would wake up and I would literally go into like straight like panic mode. And so my anxiety for me feels like it comes in forms of like I physically feel it. So sometimes I wake up and I'm just like anxious, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, and it's so overwhelming that it feels like I'm paralyzed. So that's my own personal experience with it, but I've been dealing with anxiety for so long now that I know that when that happens, I'm able to identify it. So that's one of the first things that I want to share with you guys that has helped me, is identifying what's triggering you, especially right now during quarantine. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of us who are having a hard time adjusting to this new lifestyle, and so you may feel like in a funk. You might be feeling things like anxiety, like something that you haven't felt before. So if something like this comes up to you, like, address it. Don't just try to like ignore it and then like pretend that it's gonna go away, because it doesn't. It typically just gets worse. I like to write things down. Okay, first of all, I want to address this thing. Given the current like circumstances of the quarantine and the coronavirus, it's definitely normal to feel concerned, especially during this quarantine. Like, it's normal for you to be feeling like anxious because there's a lot of things that are unknown, and every day there's like something new. I know, at least in my household, there's a lot of new things happening like every day, and so every day you try to adjust and find new ways to cope with it. But if you find that like you are really like stuck in feeling like anxious and you can't figure out like why you can't get out of it, then these tips might be helpful for you. So first, think about like what you're actually worried about. I know for me, like, sometimes I wake up and I get anxious about all the things that need to get done in the house. What I like to do when that happens is I like to take it literally one task at a time. I don't worry about like everything that needs to get done. I just worry about like the most important thing on my list that needs to get done for the day, and that like has helped me drastically, because then I'm not anxious about everything that needs to get done. I'm just like, oh, okay, like, this is the one thing I need to focus on for the next hour, and then I move on to the next. And I notice that that keeps me calm during the day. The next thing that I like to do is to really think about like how my thoughts are being influenced. Sometimes when we're I know when I feel anxious, I begin, like, if I see something on like social media, or if I see something on the news, it triggers me, and then I'm like, my mind just like starts going everywhere. So in order for me to not get anxious about that, I try to pinpoint, like, did I see something that triggered me? Like, what was it? And I talk to myself about it and I go through it. Sometimes I call my friends, and that helps too. So because of the current situation right now, I know that it's much easier said than done. I really encourage you to try your best to look for the positive in different things. I know that everyone is currently going through different situations, and some of us may be experiencing things at a much like more challenging than other people. I would encourage you to first like validate other people's experiences. I've read that, like, not on my comments but on other people's comments, like people saying like, well, you know, like, I can't do this, or like, well, you're so lucky that like you have this, and instead of like supporting each other, they're like tearing each other down. When I read that, or for anyone who's going through this, it's like it almost makes you more anxious. So avoid being negative, and then if you are receiving negativity, try your best to not allow that to like affect the rest of your day, because at the end of the day, when someone says something to you, you cannot change what's been said, but you can change how it affects you. And the next thing, it kind of goes hand in hand with what I had just said, but I really try to make it a point from the minute that I get up, especially when I wake up feeling anxious, because that has been a lot of the days during this quarantine. I think about things that I'm grateful for, and I make it a point to like throughout the day look for things that I'm happy about. So for example, if I woke up late, because sometimes I do, I'm anxious about like all the things I need to get done and I'm already late, I try to praise myself for the things that I accomplish. I try to be thankful for the little things, like, oh, I have food on my plate, I have a roof over my head, my bills are paid for. Things that I know that many of us are experiencing right now. I try to look for the goodness in my life without thinking about what someone else is going through. So I guess the shorter version of that would be like, do not compare, but have compassion. So compassion over comparison. And I know that everything that I just said, it sounds so easy to say, but to actually like apply it to your life, it's much harder. But trust me when I tell you that when you become intentional about living better with your anxiety, it is very possible to live a happy life. My life is not perfect. My life is not any less anxious, but I can cope with it better. I know one of the mistakes I've made in the past is to think that I can just get rid of this anxiety, and like I try to like push it away. I even went as far as like trying to ignore the fact that like I suffered from severe anxiety, and that was not helpful. So if you are someone who is experiencing anxiety and it has gotten worse with the current situation of the pandemic, seek help. And if it's really bad and you're finding that's getting on the way of your daily life and it's affecting things that you would typically enjoy doing, like, please seek help. I'm going to be linking different things in the description, different resources that you can use. I hope you find this helpful. And lastly, another thing that I like to do is to put things into prayer. And I know for me that like I'm praying all day, and I used to think that like prayer had to be this like thing where it was just like this solely dedicated, quiet, like perfect, like Holy Spirit like come into my life moment. But as I've gotten older, like I've learned to understand that like God is always listening and I can always turn to Him. So when I am feeling so anxious to the point where like none of these tips are working, I turn to my faith and I turn to prayer, and that's the one thing that like brings me the most peace, especially during these times. Also listening to like worship music, because it just like uplifts my soul and I'm like, ah, I can breathe. Just sitting with your feelings. Like I know that sounds kind of silly, but oh my God, I'm running out of breath, I'm sorry. But what I mean by that is like sometimes I just don't want to move. Like my anxiety gets so bad to the point where I just don't want to move and I feel paralyzed, and I can't, even if I try. I'm just like, ah. When that happens, instead of feeling bad about it, I really try to just like be kind to myself and have compassion for myself, because sometimes like you just need to hear that like it's going to be okay, and that just because you're having a bad day, it does not mean that you have a bad life. And a lot of the times our anxiety comes from the unknown, and with this current situation, there's so many things that are yet to be seen. There's a lot of things that we don't have answers to, and so it can definitely create a lot of anxiety in our homes, and we're confined with our loved ones that we can't necessarily like get away from. Sometimes when you can't get away from your problems, you have to face them, and you have to face them without fear. You have to face them knowing that it is possible for you to overcome them. That is it for today's video, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so sorry, I am so out of breath, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys give this a thumbs up and share this with someone, especially if you've had a conversation with someone recently and they're going through some anxiety, and they're in quarantine, share this video with them. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Okay, I love you. Bye.